Hello. Now, of course, you missed. If you didn't watch the race earlier, you missed quite a spectacular race. It must be one of the best races of all of recent times, because it just had quite a lot. It had one spectacular overtaking manoeuvre between the two McLaren drivers. Button was attempting the overtake. I had to be honest. I was thinking, that's it, game over. Hamilton's not going to win this race. But then suddenly, you know, I was thinking, oh, I would have loved to see Hamilton win this race. And then suddenly on the home straight, he came back at him and took him through the corner and won it. So it was absolutely fantastic, I've got to say. And of course, you know, the collision with the two Red Bulls was a bit of a shame, because, but then I've got to admit there was a slight sense of happiness in me, because of course I knew what that meant. That would be leading to a McLaren 1-2, an English team in the top two, two Englishmen in the top two. Of course it was absolutely brilliant, but of course I got a lot of respect for, and you know, praise for the other for most of the other teams and drivers. You know, there are a lot of good teams out there. You know, of course, it's got to be said as well, I think that was Vettel's fault, really, the crash, because of course you might argue that maybe Webber didn't give Vettel much room, but you know, he's got every right to block off, you know, his position, because he's, you know, you're in the lead. You know, you've got every right to block off. You know, if you know, you can't just let the faster guy through. I mean, that certainly didn't happen in 1992 at the Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you very much. Oh yes, but you know, either way, they shouldn't have been. You know, well, this sort of incident really is just sort of, you know, just unacceptable, really. You know, you shouldn't be crashing into your teammate, because, of course, you know, stop cheating, Vettel. Of course, I'm joking here, but, yeah. Because I have to admit, though, it did look a bit like it was more Vettel's fault than Webber, but, you know, probably neither driver are going to take the blame for it. But, and of course, Hamilton at the end of the race didn't look like he was that happy with his victory. What I mean by that is, you know, when you see drivers at the end of a race, when they cross the line, like, you know, they're usually doing all this with their hands and stuff, and you know, maybe outside the cock, you know, to everyone, you know, just really celebrating it, you know, and then maybe they'll jump out of the car with their index fingers still and do that, you know, but, you know, he just didn't seem, you know, he just, you know, slowly drove the car back into the pits, and you know, it was a little bit disappointing. Maybe he thought that because he didn't really earn his victory, he didn't really feel like, you know, a deserved victory. What I mean by that, of course, is, you know, maybe he would have felt better if he had actually overtook the Red Bulls, as opposed to getting the victory due to the two crashing out. You know, so maybe he would have felt, you know, so maybe it would have felt better if he'd finished third without the Red Bull incident happening than to have finished first because of the Red Bull incident, because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't an actual, you know, you surely would have enjoyed more to overtake them than to have, you know, got there out of accident. But anyway, you know, it's done now. Mark Webber third as opposed to first. But still, now of course, congratulations to Sauber as well, the first point of the 2010 season. 10th place, of course, you know, a bit of luck, to be honest. You know, Petrov, you know, it was a bit disappointing about him. What happened, he was looking good for 8th or 9th place. Alonso overtook him, and really, that's where all the problems started. Yeah, and he took about a minute in the second sector, apparently, according to Martin Bundle, and of course, on that, and which inevitably demoted him down to 15th, because he had to pit as well. But yeah, you know, he's just looking to get to the finish, really. Right, well, the two virgins finished, the only team of the new teams to actually finish this race, and albeit in 18th and 19th, but 3 laps down, but it's still a finish, so they can be happy with that. Best of the new teams today. Della Rosa 11th, so as well as the first points finish, it's the first double finish of the season for Sauber. Of course, and Alonso thinks Ferrari have slipped down to the 5th fastest team, as opposed to where they were earlier in the season, 2nd fastest. But you know, it's a bit disappointing for them, because you know, they're supposed to be fighting for the constructors, the drivers' championship. They're supposed to be one of these big 4 teams. You know, but it might soon turn out to be the big 5, because Renault aren't too far behind and they look like they're vigorously catching up to them. In fact, they've got a major upgrade for Canada as well, so apparently, so you know, it could be another fantastic result for Renault there, on top of the 6th place in Turkey they've got. Let's see. But yes, another 2 points for Force India. You know, if you said, probably, you know, 2 years ago, in 2008, if you said to somebody in 2 years, after the first 7 races, Force India are going to have 32 points, they'd have shot you. Or at least put you in a mental asylum, because it just wasn't thinkable at the time. They weren't getting points, they weren't coming close, really. I remember actually a Force India driving in 6th in Brazil, but he had the correct tyres on for the conditions. But you know, that's another fantastic race. Let's not forget the final corner. But yes, I must say, you know, it's one of the most exciting races in a while. Fantastic little overtaking manoeuvre from Button at one point on Hamilton for the lead. You know, I have to say, I thought that that's it. You know, that's Button won the race. I was a little bit pleased about the concept of Button winning a 3rd race this season, but I also thought, well, I would have loved to see Hamilton win a race this year, and I would have loved to see Hamilton win this race, in fact. But you know, what can you do? You know. But yeah, an interesting little overtake. He overtook him on one of the final corners, and then Hamilton got him on the first corner, and understandably, you know, there would have been a bit of worrying on the pit wall of the McLaren pit wall, because of course they wouldn't want the same thing to happen to their drivers that happened to the Red Bulls. Because, you know, obviously you want them to race each other, but, you know, within the limits of safety, obviously. But, you know, there's always risks in racing, and you've got to live with that, or, you know, go home. Well, I'm at home, but, you know, go to somewhere else's house, maybe, you know. Well, I don't know where I'm going, right? But, you know, and of course, not a great race for Williams. They've had better, 14th and 17th. Yeah, but, you know, it's a shame to see them so far down, but, you know, what can you do? You know, you just got to do your best all weekend, and as long as you do your best, then you can surely feel at least happy with that. But, you know, and of course, Luizzi again, he qualified in 18th for this race, finished 13th. And, you know, a lot of people are saying, yeah, what about this Paul di Resta? He's going to get this seat, and we're going to have 66.6 recurring % of our drivers being world champions, as opposed to the 100% we've got now. But, you know, I say, you know, let's wait and see, because, you know, as far as we've heard nothing of this possible thing happening from Force India. No one said we're going to replace Luizzi with Resta if this continues up. But, you know, let's wait and see. Because if this does continue up, then it'll be interesting to find out the conclusion, won't it? So that's it. Webber 93 points, leading the championship by 5 points. Let's see where we are in Canada, Maud.